So the first hour is typically listening. When you get into the reading exam, it's actually split into two. The first part of your reading exam is your reading part A, and this is run for 15 minutes. After reading part A is finished, you've now got a little break in the middle, about 5 to 10 minutes before the next part of reading begins. So this will be reading part B and part C together for 45 minutes. So on today's lesson, we're going to focus on reading part A. And your reading part A will actually be given into two sessions. So today, as well as the one on Saturday. Now, the reason why we've got two is, for me, this is the most important part of reading. In order to pass the reading exam, you need to get a score of, on average, about 30, okay? So if your goal is 30 and you're doing your practices and you're hitting 30 points all the time, there's a good, that's a good indication, basically, that you are able to pass the exam, okay? If you're slightly just below 27, 28, 29, this means keep on practicing until you can see there's consistency of 30 points and above. Now, out of the 30 points that you need, part A is worth 20 points, okay? And that's the reason why, for me, this is the most important part of reading. So, number one, it has the most number of correct answers that you can get. And number two is because this is the easiest part of the exam. Okay, in here, we don't really read for comprehension. Majority of the time, we're scanning and finding or searching for the answer. Okay, so the main challenge in here is, basically answering 20 questions and reading 4 texts within the time limit of 15 minutes. Okay, so you're going to have 4 texts that you need to read, and I normally would ask my students to spend at least 3 minutes doing this. Okay, after you've done your reading of the 4 texts, you're going to answer 20 questions. And reading the text and answering the 20 questions should be done within the 15-minute time limit. To make things slightly more challenging, OET also requires that your answers are spelled correctly, okay? Which means that any wrong spelling is wrong. So, for example, the word iodine has an E at the end, and if you forget to spell it with the E, then your answer is wrong, even though it sounds the same. So this is harder or more restrictive than your listening. Wherein in listening, even if you spell it incorrectly, could still be right if it sounds the same. In here, the rule is wrong spelling is wrong. Okay, so apart from, answering in the shortest possible time that you can manage, you also need to ensure that your answers are spelled correctly and the grammar is correct. Okay, so the 4 texts that you will be required to read are text A, text B, text C, and text D. One of these texts, okay, is going to be a visual text. So just like text C, okay? So in text C, we have a table. Other visual texts during the exam could be a graph, a flow chart, or a diagram. When you see a diagram, it's a picture, okay? But the diagram or the picture, they're very rare. It doesn't it doesn't happen too often in reading. Majority of the time, or the most common visual text is a table, just like the one that we have in front of you on the screen. So what are you going to do with this four texts? Okay, so remember the texts are A, B, C, and D. Okay, these four texts contains the answers that you need. So this is basically like a hide and seek situation. So OET have hidden the answers within the four texts, and then they give you clues on how to find them within your question area. So the 20 question has your clues, and using those clues, you should be able to find the correct answer within the text. Now, your 20 questions are divided into three different question types. The first one will always be matching. Your matching questions are about 6 or 7 questions. It's the easiest part of the test. You're simply given a question, and based on those questions, all you need to do is answer whether it's A, B, C, or D. Okay. Now, the importance with matching, even though it is quite simple, is that matching or the skill that you're going to use in matching, you will repeat with the rest of the other two question type. Okay. So the second question type is a short answer question. Now, the short answer question can be written in the middle of the test paper, or sometimes it's written at the back. Okay. So sometimes you might get question number 8 to number 14 as a short answer, but sometimes question 15 to 20 could be your short answer as well. So the short answer interchange the location of the questions with the third question type, which is your sentence completion or your gap fill. Okay, so this two changes position depending on the exam. But your matching question will always be the first set that you will do on the day. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the three question types in more details, and also to give you some strategies on how to tackle them. So for the matching question, basically all we need to do is find the information. Okay. And in order to find the information, you will need to identify 2 keywords per question, minimum, okay? So for number 1, I've chosen keyword 1 as procedure and keyword 2 as pain relief. So, and then on 2, another procedure, but this time around, it's for splinting a fractured limb. And for number 3, assessing and the word patient. Using your 2 keywords, you will then decide whether these words are hidden within text A, text B, text C, or text D. Okay, in order to find the answer for this one, we will have to practice summarization. Okay, so we'll talk about summarization later on. But this is the main step that you have to do in a matching question. So step 1, you're going to choose your 2 keywords. From those 2 keywords, you're going to do matching A, B, C, or D. Again, as I've mentioned, the matching skill is something that you will do all throughout the 20 questions. So even though the matching is only 1 to 7, the skill is something that you need to answer 8 to 20 as well, okay? So this example is a short answer. Both the short answer and the sentence completion requires 1 word or a short phrase. When I say short phrase, OET typically requires up to a maximum of 4 words. But majority of the time, the answers to OET questions are 1 to 2 words only. Okay, it's very rare for you to see answers that are 3 or 4. It does happen, but it's very rare. Okay, so majority of the time, the answers that you need are 1 to 2 words only. So in order to answer the short answer questions, we're going to do exactly what we did with matching. we're going to do your matching question, which means we're going to choose our two keywords. So I've chosen elevate and I've chosen fracture leg, okay? When you have these two words, you're going to then identify, will I find them on A, B, C, or D? Once you've made your decision, it's now time to go into step 2. Okay, so the first step is keyword matching. The second step, which you will use for short answer question, is we're going to do scanning for keywords. Okay, so we're going to use these two keywords to scan for the correct answer. And you only need 2 steps when it's short answer, matching and scanning. But for matching, you only need 1. Okay, and then the last one, which is sentence completion, we're gonna have to do 3 steps. Okay, so we're still going to do our matching, which means for this instance, again, very similar, 1 word or a short phrase, typically maximum of 4 words. I've chosen 2 keywords, okay? Outstretched hand and elbow. And then we're going to identify which text it falls into. Okay, so we're going to do our matching again. After matching, we're going to go back to scanning. So your step 1, matching, step 2, scanning for keywords. And then finally, because sentence completion and gap fill is the most restrictive of all the 3, you're going to do your grammatical check. Okay, so you're going to make sure that your answers are grammatically correct. Okay, so when I say grammatically correct, the typical style is to look at the words before the blank space. Okay, so in this particular instance, our word is the article a. When it is a, it means you're going to need an answer which is singular and has a consonant sound, okay? If you look at 16, it's exactly the same. It's an article a, which means singular noun, consonant sound. Now to remind you, okay, the article a and the article an, they're both singular, okay? Now a, well, let's do an first. Okay, an requires vowels. Okay, so your vowels are A, E, I, O, U. Okay, and your consonants are basically non-vowels. So a is used for consonants, and these are words that are not vowels. Okay, I don't know how to spell it. Here we go. Okay, yeah. So always remember that if the word in front or the article is an a or an an, you need a singular word, okay? Which means fracture is singular, so correct. But if you answer in plural form, fractures, then that is not going to be accepted, okay? They mean exactly the same, but one is singular, the other one is plural. So the plural in this instance will not be accepted because we're after a singular one, okay? So this is basically a hint coming from OET so that you can double check whether you've given the right answer or the wrong answer. And typically, if you're familiar with your vocabulary and you're familiar with your grammar, this one would be so easy because it comes naturally with you, okay? But if you're not so familiar with the use of articles, you might need to actually go back and just double check that you've identified the clues given to you by OET in this instance, okay? If your clues are like 17, which is the word any basically means it could be singular, it could be plural. It refers to one, it refers to many, it refers to all, okay? So basically in here, we've got no clues at all. But the first 2 we do. So I would always say just double check what's in front of your question. And also sometimes there will be some hints or some clues written at the back as well. Okay. And now another rule I'm gonna write it down onto the chat is that if the dosage is given in the question, a number is enough. Okay, in the answer option. So say 30. Okay, but if your question does not have the dosage, you need to include the dosage in your answer. Which means this time around, we need 30 milligrams per liter, or just 30 milligrams, for example, okay? And if you only answered 30, then the answer would be wrong, okay? Because the question does not have the dosage in it. So again, this is one wherein a lot of my student tends to get, caught, meaning they would give, they found the correct answer, but they couldn't get a point from it just because they were missing the dosage. Okay, so remember the rule. If the dosage is in your question, it's okay just to give the number. If the dosage is not on your question, you need to add the dosage in your answer. Okay, so these are your typical OET rules.